I was going to do a thing on, or I am going to do a thing on climate change, but I certainly plan to do something around climate change simply because of a report that came out on the ABC with regard to the way that we're using electricity here in Australia and the impact that renewables are having on all of that. And while I was preparing for all of that, I came upon this following clip from David Attenborough, which is a warning about climate change. So I thought I'd play this to start with as a reminder of where we, or what, the way we need to be thinking about climate in the world, not just in Australia as well. So I'll just play this clip from David.
In the last 150 years, the world has warmed on average by just over 1 degree Celsius. And our atmosphere now contains concentrations of carbon dioxide that have not been equaled for millions of years. We are today perilously close to tipping points that, once passed, will send global temperatures spiraling catastrophically higher. If we continue on our current path, we will face the collapse of everything that gives us our security: food production, access to fresh water, habitable ambient temperature, and ocean food chains. And if the natural world can no longer support the most basic of our needs, then much of the rest of civilization will quickly break down. Please make no mistake. Climate change is the biggest threat to security that modern humans have ever faced.
And I think the warning is quite clear, and that is that we need to do something about the way we view climate change, and we need to up the ante. Even though here in Australia, we certainly know that it's a very small percentage of the world's contributions to emissions, but we still need to be doing our bit. Now, as a result of all of that, I thought I'd just play that clip for you because I think it's an important reminder of where we sit in relation to climate and how we need to be proactive in terms of dealing with it. And there was a report in the on the ABC, which Australia hits power demand record as Renewable passed 50% milestone. And the reason why I'm going to be talking about this or highlight this article is that I think it's important for us to have some good news every now and again, and to know that this is important. This will not be reported on right-wing media because it is counter to their narrative about where climate change is, and particularly in relation to renewables in Australia. But I think there is some good news here that we can take on board. So what this article basically is telling us is that demand for power in Australia's biggest electricity grid reached a record high for the fourth quarter last year. It came as renewable energy supplied more power than fossil fuels across Australia for the first time in a 3-month period. Heatwave conditions are set to push demand for power towards all-time highs in the coming weeks. Now, we also know that if we just go outside tomorrow, it's going to be 42 degrees here in Adelaide again. We know that this is intensifying and we need to do something about it. And fortunately, renewables are playing a significant role in not just attempting to confront climate change and the heating of the world, but it is also about potentially over time reducing costs. So Australia's needs for electricity is breaking records, with demand in the country's biggest grid reaching an all-time high for the first quarter of the year. The record came as Australia went past another milestone, with renewable energy supplying more than fossil fuels in a quarter for the first time. In its latest snapshot of the national electricity market, which supplies power across the eastern seaboard, the Australian Energy Market Operator said renewed growth in demand for power was continuing with a vengeance. Average underlying demand, which includes power needs met by millions of rooftop solar panels, hit a new high of 24,271 megawatts in the 3 months to the end of December. It was up 530 megawatts or 2.2% on the previous high in 2024 and came amid greater demand for heating and cooling, electrification, the rise of power-hungry data centres and population growth. So regardless of all of those things, the demand was there. We can see the underlying demand there and the operational demand down there. Despite the record, AEMO noted the seemingly unstoppable growth of rooftop solar was continuing to meet much of the extra consumption, because here in Australia we have more rooftop solar panels per head of population than any other country on earth. Because we have a lot of sun, rooftop solar alone supplied an average of 4,407 megawatts during the quarter, also a record, while its share at one stage momentarily reached 61%. The contribution of rooftop solar helped renewable energy, along with a burgeoning fleet of large and small-scale batteries, supply more than half the demand in the NEM in a quarter for the first time. According to AEMO, renewable energy delivered 51% overall supply for the period, compared with 46% in the previous corresponding 3 months. The agency said the increase comprised 29% rise in wind output and 50% increase in the grid scale. So what this is telling us is that the reality is that what the government is doing in terms of renewables, updating the grid, financing the input of solar panels on houses, providing rebates, and the other things that are done are paying off. Now, one of my issues has been whether this will actually come to fruition and whether the prices of energy will decrease. I do not know. I'm anticipating that perhaps it should, given this sort of information. And as we it sort of dispenses with the argument around coal and gas, I think, that it has proved there were no outages, that the system didn't collapse or fall over during the heat waves we've had in the last week. The system has survived, and given all of that, perhaps that might prove to be substantial over the coming months and years ahead. And obviously the increase will continue, and that electricity in terms of renewables will become a thing and not something which is diminished by the right. And I don't know how the right wing's going to respond around all of that. They probably won't even report it. It was in the ABC. I haven't seen it reported anywhere else about these changes. So let me know what you think about all of that. Is there a turning point? Have we reached a point whereby hopefully electricity prices will diminish because renewables will be kicking in a far more significant way than what they have been doing in the past? Let me know in the comments section below where you sit around all of that. Take care.